There was a period when the mere mention of John D. Rockefeller's name would send shivers down people's spines. Not only was he the first billionaire in the world, but he also remains one of the wealthiest individuals in human history, with a fortune equivalent to more than $400 billion today. His empire, Standard Oil, grew into the world's most dominant monopoly by ruthlessly crushing competitors, seizing control of multiple industries, and approaching business as though it were warfare. This is what life was truly like for the boy who rose from dire poverty to become America's most powerful businessman. If you listen to these to fall asleep, hit subscribe so you won't miss any. Comment your location and the time too. It's fun seeing where everyone's from. Someone from Iceland once commented, and I even had to Google their time zone. We're about to head to the 1800s, but first, get comfortable. Seriously, take a moment. Adjust whatever you need to. You won't want to move once we begin. It's pre-dawn in upstate New York, 1845. The bitter cold slips through the cracks of the wooden farmhouse walls. You're waking up on a rough corn husk mattress, the scratchy wool blanket barely keeping the chill away. Your body knows it's time to rise. Farm work doesn't wait for anyone, not even a 6-year-old child. The first thing you feel is hunger. Not the mild kind you experience now in a cozy bed, but the deep, constant ache of someone who never gets enough food. Your stomach growls with that strange gurgling sound again. You're John D. Rockefeller, and right now, you're as far from a billionaire as one can be. The wooden floor is freezing under your bare feet as you crawl out of bed. There's no central heating here. Just the faint glow from the kitchen hearth barely lighting the corners of the house. Your breath hangs in visible puffs. A rooster crows outside, and you hear your mother moving around, likely saying her morning prayers. The Rockefellers are strict Baptists. God always comes before breakfast. "John, time to fetch water," your mother calls from the kitchen, her voice tired. She's always tired. This isn't like having a modern bathroom with running water and plumbing. You're about to grab a wooden bucket, walk to the well, break the ice on top, and haul back freezing water. Your arms will burn halfway there. Your fingers will go numb. But if you don't do it, no one drinks or washes today. This was the daily reality for the man who would become the richest in American history. Strange to think about, right? I spent far too long researching 19th century rural hygiene habits for this, concerningly long. And let me tell you, the Rockefeller family wasn't living luxuriously. Their farmhouse was barely standing. The clothes were endlessly patched, and everyone was hungry nearly all the time. But here's where it gets interesting. While getting that water back, your mind is already working. Even at 6, you think about money differently than other kids. Like when you discovered that turkey nest in the woods last week. Remember that? You followed a wild turkey, tracked where it went, and found its eggs. Most kids would have taken the eggs for breakfast, but not you. You carefully brought them home to hatch. Why? Because a few grown turkeys could sell for far more than a handful of eggs. You're already thinking about investments, delayed rewards, and building wealth. At 6, "John, did you collect those eggs like I asked?" your mother asks, dark circles beneath her eyes. "Yes, Mom," you reply. "And I've been thinking," you add softly but firmly, "if we let some hatch, we could raise more turkeys and sell them at the market for more money." She gives you a tired smile. Always with the schemes, aren't you? The turkey story isn't just made up. It really happened. Young John Rockefeller was hustling poultry before most kids even knew how to tie their shoes. He sold those turkeys for a tidy profit and immediately started thinking about how to grow that little pile of money. So, what made John different? Why was this boy destined to become unimaginably wealthy while his neighbors stayed trapped in poverty? Part of the answer lies with his father, but not in the way you'd expect. "Where's father?" you ask, already knowing. Your mother's face stiffens. "Business," she answers shortly. "He'll be back when he can." Adults call your father Devil Bill behind his back, and not without reason. William Avery Rockefeller is what polite society in the 1840s calls a scoundrel, less politely a worthless fraud. Right now, he's off somewhere selling fake medicine to desperate people, calling himself Dr. William Levston. He peddles bottles of mystery liquid, claiming it cures cancer, heals broken bones, makes you irresistible, and probably whitens your teeth too. Imagine growing up knowing your father's basically a con artist. That's your childhood, John. Your mother says he promised to come back with money, but even she doesn't sound convinced. Sometimes Bill does return with cash, roaring drunk in the middle of the night, tossing candy to the kids and pressing crumpled bills into your mother's reluctant hands. He'll stay for a week or two, loud, charming, filling the house with his energy, and then disappear again for months. Your stomach growls as you chew on a piece of dry bread for breakfast. Your father's been gone 6 weeks now. The money he left ran out 3 weeks ago. I'm going to check the turkey eggs, you announce, and your mother nods tiredly. Outside, in the shaky little coop you built yourself, 3 turkey eggs are cracking open. You watch in fascination as tiny beaks push through. This is your investment literally hatching in front of you. Your mind races, calculating how much you can sell them for, how many more you can raise, how long until you can double your profits. You're 6 years old, standing barefoot in the freezing cold, watching turkey eggs hatch, and thinking about compound interest. That's not normal. The strangest part? While Devil Bill is out being reckless, John develops an almost obsessive sense of honesty. It's like the moral pendulum swings hard in the opposite direction. His mother drills religious values into him, and he absorbs them with intense devotion. Waste not, want not, she repeats, scraping every last crumb from her plate. A penny saved is a penny earned, she says, carefully recording every expense in her little book. To John, these aren't just sayings. They're survival. They meant the difference between eating and going hungry. But then something happens that changes everything. You're 10 years old now. It's 1849, and the entire town is buzzing with whispers. Your father has been accused of something terrible, something involving a young woman. The details are kept from the children, but you see your mother crying when she thinks no one notices. Within days, you're packing up your few belongings. The family has to leave town. The disgrace is too much. Where are we going? You ask your mother. Moravia, she says softly. We're starting over. Starting over becomes a pattern. The Rockefellers move from town to town, always one step ahead of Bill's reputation. And with each move, more responsibility falls onto young John's shoulders. By 12, he's practically managing the family finances. By 14, he's lending money to neighbors with interest. I interviewed a historian about this, and she told me something fascinating. John's teenage account books still exist. This kid was obsessively recording every penny earned and spent. If he lent a neighbor 50 cents, he carefully noted the 7% interest due in a month. He was a human calculator before calculators existed. Finally, the family settles in Cleveland, Ohio. It's 1855, and you're 16 years old. Your father's visits have become even rarer. He has another family now, a whole secret wife and life your mother will never know about. I need to find work, you tell your mother one evening. Real work. You've been helping on the farm, selling turkeys and doing odd jobs for years, but college isn't an option. There are 5 kids now, and someone has to put food on the table. That someone is you. What kind of work, John? She asks quietly. You straighten your carefully patched jacket. I'm going to work for a merchant or a bank, somewhere I can learn about business. The next morning, you make a list of every major business in Cleveland. You put on your one good shirt, slick down your hair, and set out with absolute determination. Your first stop is the railroad office. You walk in, back straight, voice steady despite your youth. I'd like to apply for a position as a bookkeeper, you tell the man at the desk. He looks up, sees a skinny 16-year-old, and literally laughs in your face. Son, you're not even old enough to shave. Come back in 5 years. It happens again at the next place, and the next and the next. You're how old? A bank manager finally asks. 16, sir, but I'm good with numbers. Very good. He shakes his head. Come back when you're a man. 6 weeks. 6 long weeks of rejection. Every morning you get up, put on that same shirt, and try again. Most people would have given up after 10 rejections. You're on your 30th attempt, and still going. Then on September 26, 1855, you walk into Wheat and Tuttle, a small produce commission firm. They need a bookkeeper. You show them your impeccable handwriting. You demonstrate your quick mental math. Can you start today, the owner asks. You blink in surprise. Yes, sir. Right now, sir. Good. Get to work. He doesn't even mention your salary. For the rest of his life, John D. Rockefeller celebrates September 26th as Job Day. Not his birthday. Not Christmas. That day, the day he finally got his foot in the door of the business world. He considers it the most important day of his life. The work is grueling. You're in the office from 7 a.m. until 9 or 10 p.m. most nights. Your eyes burn from squinting at endless columns of numbers. Your fingers are permanently stained with ink. But you're learning. Every transaction, every negotiation, every business decision, you're absorbing it all like a sponge. One day, your boss comes in with a check for $4,000, an astronomical sum in 1855. He places it in the safe and leaves for lunch. You know the combination. When he's gone, you quietly open the safe and hold the check in your hands. You stare at it, mesmerized by what it represents. I am bound to be rich, you whisper to yourself. Bound to be rich. This becomes your mantra. Every morning before work, you look in the mirror and repeat, I am bound to be rich. Not hoping, not wishing, bound, like it's already decided, just waiting to happen. After 3 months, you finally get your first payment, $50 for 3 months of work. That's about 50 cents a day. But your bosses are impressed with your discipline and dedication. They raise your salary to $300 per year, roughly $11,000 in today's money. It isn't much, but it's enough to gain independence and help support your mother and siblings. And even with this tiny income, you immediately begin giving away 10% to charity, a practice you'll continue for the rest of your life. It's strange to think of America's ultimate capitalist titan as charitable, but church records prove John was donating when he was earning almost nothing. The man was complicated. For 2 years, you worked tirelessly at Wheat and Tuttle. You master every detail of the business. But then, the economy slows down. One of the partners quits and suddenly all of his responsibilities fall on you. Yet your salary doesn't increase. You start to see the writing on the wall. The company's struggling. It might not survive. Most people would panic. You see opportunity. At your boarding house, you become friends with a chemist named Maurice Clark, who works nearby. He's 28. You're just 18, but you've impressed him with your business skills and relentless work ethic. One evening, over a simple dinner, Maurice leans forward. I've been thinking about starting my own produce commission business, he says, but I need a partner who understands the books. I'm your man, you reply instantly. You'd need to invest $2,000, Maurice warns. Can you raise it? $2,000 in 1857 is no small sum, about $70,000 today. You've saved every penny, but it's nowhere near enough. I'll find a way, you say with absolute confidence. And somehow, you do. You scrape together savings and loans. You approach people with such certainty that they believe in you. At 19 years old, you become co-owner of Clark and Rockefeller, a produce commission firm. From farm boy to business owner in just 3 years. The early days are brutal. You and Maurice work from dawn until midnight. You travel constantly, meeting farmers and merchants, building connections. Your feet blister on top of blisters. Some nights you sleep on sacks of grain because there's no time to go home. But the business grows. Then you come up with a bold strategy. You need more capital to expand, so you start publicly saying that Clark and Rockefeller is looking to invest $10,000 in a venture. You don't have anywhere near that kind of money, but you create the impression of success, and it works. Banks, convinced you're thriving, start lending to you. The successful business gets the credit it needs to actually become successful. Fake it till you make it, 1850 style. Then the Civil War breaks out. As a devout Baptist, you strongly oppose slavery. The Union's cause matters to you, but so does your family, 6 mouths to feed at home. Instead of enlisting, you pay $300 for a substitute soldier. That was legal at the time. You even personally fund supplies for several more Union soldiers. Meanwhile, the war sparks an economic boom in the North. Cleveland becomes a strategic hub for the Union. Food prices skyrocket. Your produce business quadruples almost overnight. By 1862, you and Maurice clear a profit of $17,000, the equivalent of over $500 today. Not bad for a 23-year-old who started with nothing. But something even bigger is coming. One evening, a young English chemist named Samuel Andrews visits your office with a proposition. Before electricity, people lit their homes with oil lamps. Traditionally, lamp oil came from whale oil, but whaling was expensive, dangerous, and driving some species to extinction. Then in 1859, people discovered they could extract rock oil or petroleum by drilling into the ground. It burned just as well as whale oil, maybe even better. Andrews has developed a secret refining process using sulfuric acid to turn crude oil into something called kerosene, which burns cleaner and brighter than anything else available. He's looking for investors to build a refinery in Cleveland, strategically just a day's ride from Pennsylvania's booming oil fields. You and Maurice exchange glances. Thanks to the war boom, you've got spare cash. Why not take a chance? You lend Andrews $4,000 to launch the refinery, thinking it'll be a small side venture while you stick to the produce business. But within a year, everything changes. The refinery's profits skyrocket, far surpassing your main business. One day, you sit across from Maurice, ledgers open, pointing to the numbers. The oil business is incredibly lucrative, but dangerously unstable. Prices swing wildly, crashing to 10 cents a barrel when supply floods the market, then soaring to $14 when wells seem to run dry. Many dismiss oil as a passing fad, but you see the future. We should sell the produce business, you insist. Go all in on oil. Maurice stares at you, stunned. That's insane. Produce is stable. Oil could vanish overnight. It won't, you reply, calm and certain. This is just the beginning. After weeks of debate, Maurice reluctantly agrees, though the volatility keeps him awake at night. In 1865, after a particularly rough stretch, he breaks. I'm out, he says. Buy my share. He wants $72,500, today's equivalent of $135 million. To buy him out, you'll need massive debt. Everyone thinks you're insane. But the same day news arrives, a huge new oil field has been discovered in Pennsylvania. Refiners panic, fearing another price crash. You see opportunity. I'll buy your share, you tell Maurice, steady despite the risk. You're 26 years old, betting everything on one of the riskiest industries in America. Now survival means crushing the competition. By 1867, you've renamed the company Standard Oil and sit in your Cleveland office, plotting domination while others struggle to stay afloat. Unlike everyone else, you see patterns in the chaos, opportunities invisible to others. A large map covers your wall. Red pens mark rival refineries, blue pens track railroad lines, green pens map buyers and suppliers. To you, this isn't a map, it's a battlefield. Then comes the turning point. Your clerk knocks. Mr. Flagler is here. Henry Flagler, a confident, sharply dressed man a decade older, walks in. You shake hands firmly. There's something in his eyes, the same ruthless ambition you carry. I've been watching your operation, he says. Impressive for a young man. Thank you, you reply, but I have much bigger plans. This meeting changes everything. Flagler becomes as vital to Standard Oil's rise as you are. Both religious, disciplined, and obsessive with details, but Flagler views business as war. The problem with this industry, he says, leaning forward, is too many players, too much competition. Prices keep collapsing. It's chaos. You nod. Exactly. And the solution, he asks, though he already knows your answer. Consolidation, you reply. One company strong enough to control the market, stabilize prices, and dominate supply. And that company, he asks, Standard Oil, you say without hesitation. By early 1868, the two of you are mapping a strategy as ruthless as Machiavelli. The key lies in the railroads. At the time, three giants, New York Central, Erie, and Pennsylvania Railroad, control oil transport. Flagler proposes a daring move. Guarantee them massive, consistent shipments. In exchange, we get secret discounts. These railroad rebates become your secret weapon. You'll pay the same official shipping rates as everyone else, but the railroads secretly refund part of your payment, sometimes cutting your real cost by 75%. While your competitors pay $2.44 per barrel, you pay about 60 cents. The deal is struck in a smoke-filled hotel room. You, Flagler, and two railroad executives huddle over a table. Gentlemen, you say calmly, Standard Oil can guarantee 60 carloads of refined oil daily. The executives exchange glances. That kind of volume is unheard of. Flagler leans in. In return, we expect special consideration on rates. One man hesitates. This isn't conventional. You lock eyes with him. Neither is what we're offering, stability in an unstable market. They agree. You've just tilted the playing field. Now with shipping costs lower than anyone else's, you can undercut every competitor, force them to their knees, and buy their refineries for pennies on the dollar. While building your empire, life at home remains simple. In 1864, you married Laura Celestia Spellman, a woman who shares your faith and discipline. By 1868, you have 2 children. Despite growing wealth, you live modestly. No drinking, gambling, or flashy spending. Shouldn't we get a bigger house? Laura asks one evening. What we have is enough, you reply. Better to reinvest where the money can grow. By 1870, Standard Oil's strategy works better than expected. Your lower prices crush rivals, and many come begging to sell. But then a shock hits the industry. Massive new oil fields are discovered in Pennsylvania. Prices collapse from $4 a barrel to $2.40 and falling. Panic spreads. Nearly 90% of refiners are losing money. Where others see disaster, you and Flagler see an opening. They're desperate, Flagler says, scanning industry reports. Cheap to acquire. Exactly, you reply. It's time to consolidate faster. One night in 1871, as you work late in your dimly lit office, there's a knock. Tom Scott, president of the powerful Pennsylvania Railroad, steps in. The one major line you don't yet control. Mr. Rockefeller, he says, removing his hat, I believe we have mutual interests to discuss. And with that, an even bolder alliance begins to take shape. A secret alliance forms between the biggest railroads and a select group of top refiners with Standard Oil at the center. It's called the South Improvement Company, SIC. Under this deal, Standard Oil gets a 50% rebate on transportation costs and an additional payment called a drawback on competitors' shipments. Essentially, every time rivals ship oil, part of their money goes to you. On top of that, you receive detailed data about competitors' operations, where they ship, how much, and to whom. This isn't business anymore. It's war. The SIC would give you a near-complete stranglehold over the industry. Competitors outside the alliance would face crushing shipping costs and an invisible tax benefiting Standard Oil. It solves everything at once, Flagler says after Scott leaves. The entire industry stabilized under our control. You nod, cautious but impressed. But soon, rumors spread. By early 1872, newspapers report doubled shipping rates on the 3 major railroads, and the public erupts. Thousands protest, and oil producers boycott any refinery tied to the SIC. Without crude oil, your refineries stall. After just 2 months, the South Improvement Company collapses. It's a public relations disaster, but also an opportunity. The mere rumor of your influence terrifies competitors. They assume you still have secret railroad deals, and you weaponize that fear. In a 6-week stretch later called the Cleveland Massacre, you approach 22 of the 26 refineries in the city with an ultimatum. Sell to Standard Oil or be destroyed. You offer stock instead of cash, knowing Standard Oil's value will rise as rivals vanish. At one meeting, you slide Reynolds, a longtime competitor, an offer of $45,000 in stock for a refinery worth $150,000. He's outraged. That's robbery. You stay calm. That's the future. Your refinery loses money daily. 6 months from now, it'll be worthless. Most owners give in. Those who sell choose between signing agreements to never re-enter the oil business or joining Standard Oil as employees. Many choose to join, bringing their expertise with them. Within 3 months, Standard Oil grows from 1 refinery to 22, controlling 85% of Cleveland's refining capacity. And you're only 33. But just as dominance begins to solidify, disaster hits in September 1873. Wall Street collapses, banks fail, and the country plunges into a 6-year depression. Oil prices crash not from oversupply, but from lack of demand. Refineries shut down, but Standard Oil survives. You've managed finances carefully, maintain excellent credit, and operate with modern efficiency, allowing you to profit while others bleed. Then comes the boldest move yet. In January 1874, amid nationwide paralysis, you call Flagler into your office. It's time to expand. He stares, stunned. Expand during a depression? But your logic is simple. Refineries in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and New York are struggling, which makes them cheap. You initiate a nationwide buyout campaign using the same ruthless tactics from Cleveland. You corner barrels, block railroad access, and squeeze rivals until they're forced to sell at steep discounts. By the late 1870s, Standard Oil dominates Pittsburgh, controls Philadelphia's largest refineries, and secures power in New York. You also begin building a massive pipeline network, cutting dependency on railroads and lowering costs. Competitors call Standard Oil the octopus, its tentacles stretching across America. By your late 30s, you're among the richest men in the country, controlling nearly 90% of U.S. refining. But your methods earn you enemies. Newspapers label Standard Oil the most cruel, impudent, and grasping monopoly ever seen. You believe the opposite, that you're saving the oil industry from chaos. Then, a new battle begins. By 1877, tensions erupt with Tom Scott, president of the Pennsylvania Railroad. As your pipeline network grows, railroads lose business. Scott retaliates, building his own refineries, a direct challenge. You respond with war. You cancel shipments with Pennsylvania Railroad, redirecting them elsewhere. You slash kerosene prices so low, Scott's refineries can't survive. And you convince competing railroads to cut their shipping fees to levels designed to bleed Pennsylvania dry. Scott faces a trap. Match the rates and lose money, or hold prices and lose customers. The pressure devastates the railroad industry. The B&O Railroad slashes wages by 20%, triggering violent strikes in July 1877. Pittsburgh erupts, freight cars burn, locomotives are destroyed, and dozens die. While you didn't cause the riots, your tactics helped set the stage. Flagler urges restraint, but you refuse. Now is the time to end this. Soon after, Scott surrenders. You negotiate a sweeping deal. Pennsylvania Railroad gets 47% of standard shipments. The other railroads split the rest, and in return, you secure secret rebates, competitor shipment data, and 20 cents per barrel passing through any major line. By 1879, Standard Oil controls the oil industry and holds immense power over railroads. But victory comes with consequences. Scott suffers a stroke and dies within a year, creating a powerful new rival, Andrew Carnegie, Scott's protege and the steel industry's rising king. Carnegie blames you for Scott's death and vows revenge, setting the stage for a legendary rivalry between oil and steel. Through all this chaos, your personal life remains modest and disciplined. You move your family to New York, choosing a comfortable home instead of a mansion. You avoid alcohol, smoking, and lavish parties, preferring evenings with your children. You still donate at least 10% of your income to charity, just as you did when earning your first paycheck. Back at Standard Oil, your strategy evolves. You've mastered horizontal integration, eliminating competitors, but now you shift to vertical integration, controlling every step of the supply chain. From drilling wells to refining, transporting, storing, and selling oil, you aim to build a perfectly integrated empire where nothing is left to chance. In 1885, a massive oil field is discovered in Lima, Ohio, but the oil reeks of sulfur, earning it the name skunk oil. Most refiners abandon it, but Rockefeller orders his chemists to find a way to remove the sulfur at any cost. After a year, they succeed, giving Standard Oil exclusive access to a cheap supply others cannot refine. This breakthrough positions Standard Oil perfectly when new oil discoveries sweep across Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, and California, and when the automobile revolution begins, turning gasoline, once a waste product, into a high-demand commodity. By the 1890s, Standard Oil controls 90% of U.S. refineries and pipelines, making Rockefeller unimaginably wealthy. But his growing power breeds resentment. Small businesses crushed by his tactics, politicians wary of his influence, and journalists enraged by his monopoly all unite against him. Rockefeller begins stepping back from daily operations, delegating to trusted lieutenants, partly to manage public criticism and partly because his empire has grown too vast. Despite this, Standard Oil keeps expanding globally, with operations across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. By his 50s, Rockefeller's health is declining. Stress and ulcers leave him eating mostly crackers, milk, and vegetables, and his hair falls out entirely. Yet his wealth grows faster than ever. To manage it, he hires Frederick Gates, a Baptist minister who revolutionizes Rockefeller's approach to philanthropy and investments. Gates organizes his giving, mentors John D. Rockefeller Jr., and leads major investments outside oil, the most significant being massive iron ore holdings in Minnesota's Mesabi Range. This move alarms Andrew Carnegie, whose steel empire depends on that ore. Fearing Rockefeller might enter the steel business, Carnegie strikes a secret deal. He agrees to buy 600,000 tons of ore annually and ship exclusively through Rockefeller's railroads in exchange for a rebate and Rockefeller's promise to stay out of steel. The deal is highly profitable and kept secret from the public. But J.P. Morgan, the nation's most powerful banker, sees an even bigger opportunity, combining Carnegie's mills, Rockefeller's mines, and other steel interests into a monopoly. In 1901, Morgan offers $88.5 million in U.S. Steel stock, worth over $3 billion today, for Rockefeller's holdings. Rockefeller accepts, making U.S. Steel the first billion-dollar corporation and securing an enormous personal fortune. However, public sentiment shifts. The progressive era brings politicians and journalists determined to break up monopolies. Rockefeller is labeled a robber baron and vilified as a ruthless capitalist. Leading the charge is Ida Tarbell, whose father's refinery was crushed by Standard Oil. Her expose, based on leaked documents, employee testimony, and secret deals, devastates Rockefeller's reputation. He refuses to respond publicly, but the damage is done. Standard Oil becomes the symbol of corporate greed. By the early 1900s, U.S. Presidents Theodore Roosevelt and William Taft target Standard Oil under the Sherman Antitrust Act. Lawsuits pile up, and after years of battles, in 1909, the Supreme Court agrees to hear the case that could dismantle his empire. On the eve of the 1911 ruling, Rockefeller remains calm. At 71 years old, semi-retired, he spends his mornings golfing while the future of Standard Oil hangs in the balance. The government's case is strong. Evidence of railroad rebates, predatory pricing, secret ownerships, and corporate espionage paints a damning picture. The next day, the Supreme Court delivers its verdict. Standard Oil must be broken up into 34 separate companies. Ironically, this ruling only multiplies Rockefeller's wealth as his shares in the new companies soar in value. But the decision marks the end of an era. The empire that began with a scared boy on a cornhusk mattress has reshaped American business, energy, and law forever. But you've known for some time that the tide of public and political opinion has turned against you, against monopolies in general. At the golf course, your regular partners are waiting. Wealthy men like yourself, though none quite as wealthy. "Big day tomorrow, John," one says as you approach. You smile pleasantly. Every day is a big day when the Lord grants you the health to enjoy it. They exchange glances. Your calm in the face of potential disaster is unnerving. "You're not worried?" another asks incredulously. You select a club carefully. "Worry never solved anything. The Supreme Court will decide as it will. I've done my work. Now it's in God's hands." The strange thing is, you mean it. This isn't just a show for your golf partners. You've spent decades building Standard Oil with meticulous planning and ruthless execution. But once something is truly beyond your control, you have this almost eerie ability to let go. The next morning, you're having breakfast when the telephone rings. It's Frederick Gates. "John," he says, his voice tight with tension. "The court has ruled." You set down your spoon carefully. "Go on." "They've ordered Standard Oil to be dissolved, broken into separate companies within 6 months. There's a long pause. Gates waits for an explosion of anger, despair, something, but the seconds tick by in silence. "John, are you there?" "Yes," you reply calmly. "Thank you for letting me know." You hang up the phone and return to your breakfast. On May 15, 1911, the Supreme Court finds Standard Oil guilty of monopolizing the oil industry through illegal practices. The company must be broken into 34 separate entities, each with its own board of directors. After 41 years, your empire faces what appears to be a fatal blow. That afternoon, reporters gather outside your estate, desperate for a comment. You rarely speak to the press, but today, you step onto the porch, immaculate as always, your bald head gleaming in the spring sun. "Mr. Rockefeller," one shouts, "what's your reaction to the Supreme Court's decision?" You smile faintly. "I have nothing to say." "Sir, they've ordered Standard Oil to be broken up. Doesn't that upset you?" You regard them for a moment. "Have a pleasant day, gentlemen." You turn and go back inside, leaving them baffled by your apparent indifference. But the truth is more complicated. The decision isn't what you wanted. The empire you built from nothing, the enterprise you protected so fiercely, is to be dismantled. Yet there's an irony here almost no one sees. The breakup might make you richer. Monopolies are often undervalued by the market. Investors fear government intervention, so prices stay suppressed. But breaking Standard Oil into 34 smaller, independent companies frees them from that shadow. Their combined value could exceed that of the original monopoly. You still own a quarter of Standard Oil stock. When the company splits, you'll get your share in each of the 34 successors. And once those companies trade freely, the market will revalue them. 3 months later, you're in your library with Gates and Jr., reviewing financial reports. "This can't be right," Jr. frowns at the papers. "They're accurate," Gates replies, a faint smile on his lips. You lean back in your chair, amusement flickering in your eyes. "So breaking up Standard Oil has made us richer?" "Significantly richer," Gates confirms. The market reacts to the breakup by driving up the value of the new companies. Investors are excited by their independence, free from legal trouble and political pressure. The government's attempt to punish you has made you wealthier than ever. By the end of 1911, your net worth approaches $900 million, about $25 billion today, and it's still rising. You're closing in on becoming the world's first billionaire. The next day, you're having lunch with Junior at your city residence. He's 37 now, serious, thoughtful, burdened by responsibility. "Father," he says, setting down his fork, "what do you intend to do now?" You look at him puzzled. "About the money," he clarifies. "It just keeps growing. Even after the breakup, something needs to be done with it." You nod slowly. You've been thinking the same thing. For years, you've given away large sums to charities and schools, but your fortune grows faster than you can distribute it. "I've been thinking," you say, "about establishing a foundation, something permanent, something that will continue the work long after I'm gone." Junior's eyes light up. "What sort of work?" "The root causes," you answer. "Not just treating symptoms, education, medical research, public health, problems at their source." It's a radical idea for its time. Most wealthy men give sporadically, reactively. You envision something systematic and strategic. In 1913, the Rockefeller Foundation is officially established with an initial endowment of $100 million over $2.6 billion today. Its mission, to promote the well-being of mankind throughout the world. You appoint Junior and Gates to lead it, alongside renowned scientists, educators, and public health experts. One afternoon, your secretary enters. "Dr. Welch is here to see you." Dr. William Welch, a leading physician and foundation director, walks in, visibly excited. "Mr. Rockefeller," he says, "we found a promising direction for medical research funding." He explains hookworm disease, a parasitic infection plaguing millions in the American South, causing anemia, weakness, and stunted childhood development. "The remarkable thing," Welch says, leaning forward, "is that we know how to prevent and treat it. We just need resources, large-scale resources." You listen carefully, asking about costs, logistics, and expected outcomes. "Draft a proposal," you say. "Let's make this happen." The Rockefeller Sanitary Commission for the Eradication of Hookworm Disease becomes the foundation's first major initiative. Within a few years, hookworm cases plummet across the South, creating a model for future global health campaigns. This is just the beginning. The foundation goes on to fund the yellow fever vaccine, establish the first schools of public health, modernize medical education, and support agricultural innovations that eventually help feed millions. Your approach to philanthropy mirrors your business strategy, methodical, data-driven, and focused on maximum impact. You don't care for glory or having your name on buildings. You care about results. A reporter once asks at a rare press conference, "Mr. Rockefeller, why are you giving away so much of your fortune?" "God gave me my money," you reply simply. "The power to make money is a gift from God, to be used for the good of mankind." Despite giving away hundreds of millions, your wealth keeps growing. The successor oil companies thrive in the automobile boom, and your investments in mining, railroads, and banking soar. By 1916, your fortune crosses $1 billion, the first in history. Adjusted for today, that's around $450 billion, making you richer than anyone alive now. Yet, personally, money matters less and less. Your life remains modest. No yachts, no sprawling estates across the world. Your pleasures are simple: family, golf, and watching your philanthropy bear fruit. One evening in your library, Junior speaks again. I've been thinking about education, he says. Not just universities, but something broader, improving schools for everyone, especially disadvantaged communities. You listen attentively as he outlines what will become the General Education Board, focused on reshaping learning across America. When he finishes, you nod thoughtfully. You've given this a lot of thought. Junior smiles faintly. I had a good teacher. You consider your next step, a second $100 million gift to the foundation. That would bring your total giving to over $500 million, Junior says, stunned. Are you sure? You nod. Money is like manure. It's no good unless it's spread, encouraging young things to grow. The next day, you're walking through your garden with your grandchildren, the sun warm on your face, the empire built and broken behind you, but your legacy just beginning. At 77, you still have remarkable energy, though your health has improved significantly since your partial retirement. Grandfather, one of the children asks, tugging at your sleeve, is it true you're the richest man in the world? You smile down at her, eyes soft with amusement. I believe the richest person, you reply, is the one who is content with what they have. She wrinkles her nose, unconvinced. That's not a real answer. You laugh. A surprisingly warm and hearty sound for someone so reserved. No, I suppose it isn't. You kneel down, joints stiff but determined to meet her gaze. Yes, people say I have more money than anyone else, but that's not what matters. What matters is what you do with what you have, whether it's a little or a lot. And what are you doing with yours? She asks innocently. Trying to help people, you say simply. Trying to solve problems that make life harder than it needs to be. This is the paradox of John D. Rockefeller, the man who built his fortune with ruthless tactics, who crushed competitors and manipulated markets, yet genuinely devoted his later life to improving the human condition. Was it guilt? Religious conviction? A desire to rehabilitate his public image? Likely some combination of all three, along with a sincere belief that wealth carried responsibility. As the First World War rages in Europe, your foundation focuses heavily on relief efforts, particularly in Belgium, where millions face starvation under German occupation. You personally contribute millions, working closely with future President Herbert Hoover, who coordinates the American Relief Mission. Meanwhile, the war fuels an unprecedented demand for oil products, especially gasoline for military vehicles. The successor companies of Standard Oil thrive, their profits soaring, and so does your wealth. By 1918, as the war nears its end, you are approaching 80. Surprisingly, your health is far better than it was during your middle years, once plagued by digestive issues and stress-related ailments. You attribute your longevity to three things: a simple diet, regular exercise, and above all, freedom from worry. Worry, you often tell your grandchildren, never accomplished anything. In your sunlit study at Pocantico Hills, you review reports from the institutions you've established: the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, later Rockefeller University, making groundbreaking strides against infectious diseases; the General Education Board, transforming American schools; and the Rockefeller Foundation, extending its reach worldwide. Frederick Gates walks in carrying a new stack of papers. The latest reports from China, he says, placing them on your desk. The medical college in Beijing is progressing rapidly. You nod, pleased. Your vision has increasingly become global. You believe medicine, education, and agriculture should serve all of humanity, not just America. And this, Gates adds, handing you a newspaper, might interest you. You scan the editorial. Another accusation that your philanthropy is nothing more than an attempt to whitewash your reputation, a robber baron trying to buy redemption. You set it aside without a word. The criticisms are nothing new, and by now, meaningless. Your focus isn't on defending your past, it's on shaping the future. Frederick, you say, looking up thoughtfully, I've been thinking about our work in medical research. Gates tilts his head. Yes? I want to expand it significantly. There are diseases we can defeat in our lifetime if we commit the resources. A slow smile spreads across his face. Even after decades of working with you, your ambition still astonishes him. I'll have the team draft proposals, he says. You nod, satisfied. The empire you built may have been dismantled, but your legacy is only beginning. As the sun sets over the Hudson River, long shadows stretch across your estate. You stand by the window, reflecting on the improbable journey, from a poor farm boy with a head for numbers to the richest man in the world, from the feared architect of America's most powerful monopoly to one of history's greatest philanthropists. To outsiders, your life seems full of contradictions. To you, there has always been a single unbroken thread: method, discipline, and strategy applied to every challenge, whether building an empire or eradicating disease. The boy who once raised turkeys to sell at market has become the man designing institutions to improve human life on a planetary scale. But the story is far from over. The morning sun spills across the verandas of your Florida estate. It's 1920, and at 81, your days follow a comfortable rhythm: breakfast with Laura, your wife of 56 years, reviewing reports from your foundations, golf in the afternoon, dinner with family when they visit. Your hands, spotted with age but still steady, sort through the morning mail. Among the usual correspondence, one small envelope catches your eye. It's from a Baptist church in rural Georgia. You open it carefully. Inside, a handwritten letter from the minister thanks you for your donation. A modest sum by your standards, just a few $1,000s, that saved their building from foreclosure. You smile faintly. For you, these quiet, personal acts of charity bring more satisfaction than the millions poured into your foundations. John, Laura calls from the sunroom. Are you joining me for coffee? You slip the letter into your pocket and join her. Laura, your steadfast companion since 1864, has seen it all. The lean years, the ruthless rise, the public backlash, the philanthropy. Through it all, she has remained practical, devout, and utterly unimpressed by wealth or fame. What has you smiling this morning? She asks, pouring you a cup of black coffee. You show her the letter. She reads it and nods approvingly. Sometimes I think these small gifts do more good than the big foundations, she says. Perhaps, you reply thoughtfully, but the foundations can tackle problems too large for small gifts. This dual nature of your philanthropy defines you, giving away nickels and dimes on the street, while also funding institutions that would transform medicine, education, and public health across the globe. The telephone rings, cutting through the quiet morning. It's Frederick Gates, his voice tense despite the crackling line from New York. John, have you seen the newspapers? The market is in trouble. The post-war boom is ending. Banks are failing in several states. You listen silently, unshaken. We should consolidate some of our positions, you say calmly. Move more into government bonds. This is the advantage of experience. You've survived financial panics before, 1873, 1893, 1907, and you know the truth. Markets rise, markets fall. Wealth survives when managed with patience. Junior is worried about the foundations, Gates adds. Tell Junior not to worry, you reply. The endowments are strong enough to weather any storm. After hanging up, you sit quietly, reflecting on your son's growth. Junior has gradually taken over the management of your businesses and philanthropic empire. Once a sheltered young man entering Brown University, he has become thoughtful, capable, and steady, more than you ever expected. Junior lacks your killer instinct for business, but carries something equally valuable, an almost painful sense of responsibility to use the Rockefeller fortune for the greater good. A week later, you're back in New York for a Rockefeller Foundation board meeting. The discussion focuses on expanding international health programs after the remarkable success of the hookworm campaign. Dr. Rose outlines plans to combat malaria, yellow fever, and other diseases across Latin America, the Caribbean, Asia, and Africa. When you ask the cost, he answers, $25 million over 5 years. Some board members hesitate at the figure, but you nod. If the results match the hookworm campaign, it's worth every penny. Junior, seated beside you, smiles slightly, knowing your decision before you speak. You've always been cautious personally, but willing to invest heavily when you see lasting returns. After the meeting, you and Junior walk through Central Park. He speaks of creating a new venture focused on art and culture, a place where beauty is accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy. Art has never been your passion, but you listen. This idea will later become the Museum of Modern Art, founded in 1929 with Rockefeller's support. You tell him simply, if you believe in it, do it. Even in his 50s, your approval matters to him. Later that evening, an unexpected visitor arrives. Charles Evans Hughes, Secretary of State under President Harding. He explains that after World War I, British and French companies dominate oil concessions in the Middle East, and the U.S. wants a foothold. The government believes Standard Oil of New Jersey could be America's vehicle for influence. You find it ironic the same government that dismantled Standard now seeks its help. You remind Hughes you no longer control the company, but agree to make inquiries. Your influence helps secure American access to Middle Eastern oil, laying the groundwork for decades of U.S. involvement in the region. Through the 1920s, your public image softens. The feared monopolist becomes a benevolent grandfather figure, handing out dimes, posing for photographs, and appearing with family. Ivy Lee, your pioneering public relations advisor, guides this transformation, but it's not entirely staged. You are genuinely devoted to family, faith, and philanthropy. By 1925, on your 86th birthday, gifts and letters flood in from across the world. President Coolidge sends regards. The King of England sends a telegram. You brush off the attention, but Laura reminds you it's well earned. By now, you've given away over $500 million, tens of billions today, and your foundation has an endowment exceeding $150 million, funding projects across 5 continents. Then comes the crash of 1929. The Great Depression devastates markets and slashes foundation endowments just as global need skyrockets. At 90, many assume you'll cut donations. Instead, you do the opposite, liquidating investments to give more. When your advisors protest, warning assets will recover in time, you reply, and how many will suffer while we wait? During these years, you and Junior grow closer. Once distant, you now rely on him for judgment in philanthropy, business, and personal matters. When Laura, your wife of 61 years, dies in 1915, Junior ensures her funeral honors her wishes and stays by your side in grief. She had been your anchor, shaping your faith and grounding you even as your wealth soared. As the Depression deepens, your institutions respond forcefully. The Rockefeller Foundation funds emergency relief. The General Education Board keeps schools open despite collapsing tax revenues, and the Rockefeller Institute drives medical breakthroughs that will save countless lives. In 1934, your grandson Nelson visits your Florida estate. At 26, ambitious and sharp, he tells you he's been offered a role as Assistant Secretary of the Navy under President Roosevelt. The Rockefellers have long been Republicans, and Roosevelt's New Deal troubles you. But you advise him to serve if he believes he can help the nation. Nelson accepts, beginning a long career in public service that will one day lead him to the vice presidency. Even in your 90s, your mind remains sharp. You follow global affairs, scientific discoveries, and foundation reports closely. Your health, once fragile, has improved with age, thanks to discipline, abstinence from alcohol and tobacco, and freedom from worry. On your 95th birthday, a reporter asks your greatest achievement. You pause, considering Standard Oil, your philanthropy, and your fortune, then answer simply, the ability to give, to earn money for the benefit of my fellow man. By 1936, approaching your 97th birthday, you reflect on your legacy. Standard Oil may have been broken up, but its successor companies, Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, still dominate the global oil industry. Your charitable contributions have reshaped medicine, education, and science worldwide, yet public opinion remains divided. To some, you're a visionary who improved humanity. To others, a ruthless robber baron whose fortune was built on exploitation. Perhaps both are true. As the sun sets over your Florida estate, you sit on the veranda beside Junior, silent and content. He breaks the quiet with news. The yellow fever vaccine has been successfully tested. It will save thousands, perhaps millions of lives. You nod, satisfied. Good, you say softly, very good. The quiet stretches between you, filled only by distant waves and evening birdsong. Do you ever regret it? Junior suddenly asks. You know what he means, the ruthless tactics, crushed competitors, political fights, and years of public condemnation. After a pause, you answer softly, regret is a waste of energy. I did what I believed was right. Junior smiles faintly. It's not quite an answer, but it's very much you. Practical, forward-looking, unwilling to dwell on the past. As darkness settles, you gaze at the stars, still humbled by the vastness of the universe after all you've achieved. From a poor bookkeeper to the richest man in the world, from the architect of America's most powerful monopoly to one of history's greatest philanthropists. A life of contrasts, yet driven by one constant: discipline, method, and the belief that wealth carries responsibility. The boy who once vowed, "I am bound to be rich," could never have imagined just how far that promise would go, or how profoundly he would use it. Morning light filters into your bedroom in Ormond Beach, Florida. It's May 1937. At 97, you've outlived nearly everyone from your generation. The world has transformed beyond recognition since your birth in 1839. From horse-drawn carriages to automobiles, whale oil lamps to electric lights, a divided nation to a global power. Your body is frail now, your movement slow, but your mind remains sharp. You still recall deals struck 60 years ago, still follow your foundation's progress, still recognize the faces of your great-grandchildren when they visit. "Good morning, Mr. Rockefeller," your nurse says brightly. "Shall I set you on the veranda today? The weather's beautiful." You nod. Junior is visiting this afternoon. On the veranda, overlooking Florida's lush greenery, you sip tea while reviewing reports from your foundation. The yellow fever vaccine your funding supported is being distributed across Latin America. New medical schools in China are training doctors. Agricultural programs in Mexico are feeding millions. Your butler brings a small stack of mail. Among it, a letter from Franklin Roosevelt himself, thanking you for supporting polio research. Despite your political differences, you find common ground in science and saving lives. Soon after, Dr. Haggard, your longtime physician, arrives for your checkup. He listens to your heart, nodding approvingly. "Remarkably strong, Mr. Rockefeller, for a man your age." You smile faintly, though fatigue lingers longer these days. Your mind drifts, not to business battles, but to simpler memories. Your mother teaching you to count pennies, your first bookkeeping job, Laura on your wedding day, your children when they were small. Junior arrives earlier than expected. "Just remembering," you tell him, gesturing for him to sit. Over the years, your relationship has evolved, from stern father and hesitant son to partners and friends. You've come to respect not just his judgment, but his vision for philanthropy, in many ways surpassing your own. The Foundation Board approved the African Public Health Initiative, Junior says, sipping lemonade. Full funding for 5 years. You nod, pleased. He updates you on the Museum of Modern Art's expansion, a project your grandson, Nelson, is deeply invested in. You smile faintly. Art was never your passion, but you've come to appreciate Junior's belief that beauty and culture are as vital as medicine and education. Then you ask about Standard Oil of California, one of the successor companies of your empire. Junior hesitates. Regulators are watching closely, concerned about aggressive acquisitions. You sigh. "Remind them what happened to us," you warn quietly. "Better to adjust course now than face dismantling later." The conversation shifts to the world's growing unrest. Fascism in Germany and Italy, Japan's aggression in China, the signs of another great war loom. "The Foundation must prepare," you tell Junior. "If war comes, the humanitarian needs will be immense." He nods gravely. That evening, you share a simple dinner, listening intently as Junior updates you on the sprawling Rockefeller family, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, their studies, ambitions, and challenges. The Rockefeller name, once synonymous with raw power, is becoming linked to public service, philanthropy, and cultural patronage. Some descendants thrive, like David, showing brilliance in banking, shaping Chase National Bank into what will become J.P. Morgan Chase. Others, like Winthrop, struggle to find their place under the weight of the name. Money, you remark quietly, can be both a blessing and a curse. You've seen it distort values, crush ambition, and breed entitlement, which is why you raised your children with modesty and discipline despite your vast fortune. Later, Junior helps you to bed, mentioning that the University of Chicago, your proudest academic legacy, wants you at the dedication of a new medical building. You decline gently. Travel is difficult now. Your world has grown small, your estate in Florida, your memories, your family. Alone in your room, you lie awake, reflecting on the journey from a poor farm boy chasing turkeys to the world's first billionaire. Was it worth it? The crushing of rivals, the endless battles, the political storms, the court-ordered dismantling of your empire? The answer is complicated. You revolutionized an industry, made oil affordable, powered progress, and built institutions that save lives and educate generations. Yet you also left scars. Competitors ruined, politics corrupted, nature exploited. History will weigh your balance sheet. You only know you followed what you believed was right. The next morning, you wake unusually weak. The nurse calls Dr. Haggard despite your protests. After examining you, he pulls Junior aside. You can't hear them, but their faces say everything. The end is near. Family gathers from across the country. Children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. They sit by your bed, sharing stories, avoiding the word goodbye, but knowing it hangs in the air. On May 23, 1937, you wake before dawn as you have for nearly a century. A sharp pain grips your chest. Calmly, you ask the nurse for Junior. When he arrives, you take his hand. The foundation, you whisper, your voice weak but steady. The work isn't finished. Junior nods, his eyes damp. I'll make sure of it. Good, you murmur, closing your eyes. Surrounded by family, you pass peacefully at 97. News spreads instantly. Obituaries fill front pages worldwide, recounting your extraordinary journey, from a poor boy with big dreams to the world's first billionaire, from ruthless monopolist to one of history's greatest benefactors. President Roosevelt himself issues a statement, praising both your industrial brilliance and your unmatched philanthropy. Your funeral at Riverside Church in New York is simple as you wished. No grand eulogies, no excess, just prayers, hymns, and quiet remembrance. You're laid to rest in Cleveland, near where it all began, near your first oil refinery. But your story doesn't end there. The Rockefeller Foundation continues shaping the world, funding medical breakthroughs, eradicating diseases, advancing education, and driving humanitarian relief during wars and crises. It fuels the Green Revolution, helping feed millions, supports refugee scholars, and drives innovations that redefine science and health. The institutions you built, Rockefeller University, the Rockefeller Institute, the General Education Board, and the University of Chicago, flourish, producing Nobel Prize winners and discoveries that save lives. Even Standard Oil's breakup, once your greatest defeat, becomes a hidden triumph. Its fragments, like Exxon, Mobil, and Chevron, grow into some of the world's largest corporations, multiplying the value of your empire. Your descendants carry forward the legacy, leading businesses, shaping policy, funding art, protecting the environment, and continuing the Rockefeller tradition of philanthropy. Yet debates about you never end. Were you a visionary who brought order to chaos and then gave back selflessly? Or a ruthless monopolist trying to cleanse his image? Perhaps both. The qualities that built your empire, discipline, precision, relentless drive, also built institutions that changed the world. You were complex, contradictory, but enduring. The boy who once declared, "I am bound to be rich," achieved more than he ever dreamed. Wealth, yes, but also influence, impact, and a legacy that reaches far beyond money. And though your empire has transformed, your fingerprints remain on medicine, education, science, business, and humanity itself. The world you helped build still carries your mark.